Hello everybody and welcome to Brno, a circuit rarely used in the sim racing world. Tonight it serves as an important stop in the journey of the RaceRoom Ranks Championship. It's the KTM GTX trophy with the double race format returning once again, though without reverse grid of course. This time we're back in Europe after Road America 3 weeks ago. The 14 flowing turns of this circuit is an unknown in terms of racing, so let's see how we get on through the course of the evening. My name's Jim O'Leary. I'm alongside Darren Fackett once again for round 3 of our championship. We're already halfway down. It feels like we've barely got underway, but 2 more rounds to come here at Brno, of course, the next on the calendar. Very important to set yourself up well for that final round in another 3 weeks' time.
Yeah, we've got a few contenders, don't we, in that title fight. Enzo Filippo and Luciano Vitford are arguably the two strongest contenders, split by 10 points at the top. But of course, there are a few who might fancy themselves if they can get a good result here. We've had some fun, especially last time out at Road America, where we saw some cracking racing. And we can only hope that this Brno circuit can serve up some really fun fighting between some of the best drivers on this platform.
Yeah, we'll dive in a little bit more to reflecting on Road America in a few moments' time, but there's the calendar for the season. The Nordschleife is to come at the end of August, and that's where we'll have our finale, as we did, I believe, in Season 1 of 2022. Which we saw so much drama in. That could be entirely false, by the way. I'm just plucking that one out of my memory. It is going to be our finale here this season, though. As I mentioned earlier on, the format is relatively simple, and we're getting used to it by now. A 15-minute race to start off with, followed by 40 minutes after qualifying. No reverse grid here, though, which does help those drivers at the front get two good races strung together at the front, and that's exactly what you need to do here in the KTM GTX trophy. String both of those races together and you'll be on your way to a good result. But it's a nice format, better than having 1 hour long race, I think, where things can get pretty strung out. Instead, we've got two slightly shorter races where there's a lot of chance to move up and down and do all kinds of things in that respect. It's a good format, and it's produced a good couple of races so far in our championship. The 15-minute race, of course, coming up first here tonight at Brno. Not sure how much you've seen of this circuit here, Dara, but of course it's just over 5 kilometres, just over 2 minutes. The best lap times currently coming in qualifying, and it's an unusual circuit. This graphic has us down at 12 corners. I'm going to argue that for 14, but whatever, you can argue about that between yourselves. Yeah, it's an unusual circuit.
Yeah, it is. It's not normally the type of format that you see in more modern racing circuits. There aren't many hard braking zones. There aren't too many long straights either. And the drivers are going to have to get it done more around these long, near 180, sometimes more than that, and 90-degree corners. But I think it'll be interesting to see how the drivers adapt, because of course we saw at Road America a lot of moves into the likes of Canada Corner at the end of a couple of straights. So it'll be interesting to see how the drivers adapt, how that changes the racing. But I'm sure after we saw a great race around the Autodrom Most, which in some respects is similar, you know, we saw a great race there. Hopefully we'll see another great race here at Brno.
Yeah, I was surprised a little bit by Most, and in a positive way as well, so I'm hoping that it's going to be a surprising race in a good way here as well. Of course, we're still using the KTM GTX here in RaceRoom. You can go and get it yourselves, of course. Just over 500 horsepower, just over 1,000 kilograms as well. It doesn't really fit into any category. It would get ripped apart by the GT3s, for example, but it would absolutely wipe the floor with the GT4s as well. It's kind of in a category of its own, and that's what makes it good for single car racing here. We're not talking about different makes and manufacturers like we will be in the GT3 Pro Series next week. We're talking about a single manufacturer series, and that of course has its strengths in itself here on RaceRoom, and here indeed everywhere. It's good every now and again to have everyone in the same car, and then it really is down to driver skill, which of course these drivers are going to need to possess a lot of to win around here, and indeed win at all in one of these RaceRoom ranked championship seasons. It's provided a good season so far, and it's a good car to have. It's a single make series here in the KTM GTX trophy.
And we all love to watch a spec series every now and again, don't we? Of course, the drivers so close together in terms of time, and there's that little bit more of an incentive to make those overtakes if and when you can. I mean, especially around this Brno circuit, there's going to be less opportunities than maybe we might see on other tracks, but these KTM cars should be able to run close behind. We should see some nice close racing, and I don't think we're going to be too short of action here this evening.
Here is the entry list, by the way, going in descending order from the RaceRoom rating, which you can accumulate, as you'll be familiar with if you're a driver on RaceRoom. If you're not, then it's basically how good you are. That's the very simple answer to that one. Enzo Filippo at the top of those standings there, as he has been every week. He's been the best rated driver. In terms of top rated drivers who have reappeared, he's just gone past our scrolling there, but Christian Grotter is making his debut here in the KTM GTX trophy. There he is, 4th in terms of rating. and making his debut in the KTM GTX Trophy. Not sure why he's decided that now is the time to join this series. Of course, he's almost certainly not going to win the championship as a result of joining so late, but he will be able to put on a show here, you would imagine, because as that suggests, he's a very strong driver, and we've seen him plenty of times in these RaceRoom broadcasts doing very well, and I'm sure that tonight will be no different for him.
And I think it creates a little bit of an interesting conundrum into the title battle, of course, with Christian up there near the front. We can see him here. He's up in P4 with about 10 minutes to go in this qualifying session. So he definitely is in that mix. And he will be taking some points off of people who would consider themselves title contenders. I mean, with Filippo at the top, that'll be confidence boosting for him, of course. I think he's the only man sub 2 minute, I should say, at the moment, so that's definitely going to be helping his confidence. And of course, he could try and put one hand on that trophy here this evening, but he's not going to be able to win it tonight. But yeah, with these new drivers, some of which we haven't seen yet so far this season, them coming is going to, I think, just add something different to the fight. Of course, they're not fighting for the title. They're just fighting, realistically, just for a little bit more fun. Of course, they're in the some of the other ranked categories as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they adapt to this series and what they can do, because I suspect they might be a little bit more aggressive than the likes of Enzo Filippo and Luciano Vitfort.
He's currently purple in the first sector as well, it's Christian Grotta, by the way, so we'll just stay with this one before we cast our minds back to Road America a little bit and the previous week's action. Of course, we've already been round here with the Mazda MX-5s, by the way. They've taken their third round of the championship. The GT3 Pro Series is coming up next week, of course, before we have our 3 weeks of Nordschleife finales at the end of August and the start of September. Christian Grotta is going quicker, though, here in the final sector. Just making his way around turn 11 and 12 there, which gives you the run uphill. Pretty important corner, actually, turn 12, to get your run up the hill here, and then in towards another flowing chicane at 13 and 14. Getting to the left-hand side here as much as possible for that late apex here at the final turn. Grotta getting on the power as quickly as possible so that he can power out towards the line now. What is the time going to be? It's a 1:59.7, half a second quicker than Enzo Filippo, and Christian Grotta is making a great debut in the KTM GTX Trophy.
Yeah, that'll definitely please him to see himself at the top of the time sheets. Of course, we're over 2/3 of the way through this qualifying session, so a lot of times have already been set, but Christian Grotta is definitely going to be very pleased with that. It's Van Tits moves up to P6 as well. I can see it ahead of Mario Zabdir, who I'm sure Zabdir will be hoping to get a good qualifying, and he is still third in the championship, tied up with Marvin Mackenberg, and Marvin is up in third. So, you know, the title rivals are near the front, and Christian Grotta has just appeared out of nowhere, has just decided that he's going to put his foot down, he's going to arrive in the championship, and he might ruffle some few feathers in the 1 hour's worth of racing, just shy of 1 hour's worth of racing we've got to come this evening.
In case you're not familiar with the two Mackenbergs, by the way, they are brothers, and they're both pretty good at RaceRoom, so they can't really be torn apart very easily. Not at least, they probably can in real life, to be fair, but not indeed on our screens here. It's Marvin who's currently ahead of Sven, although only by 0.2 of a second. Wherever they are in the field, whether it's slightly below the very top drivers or whether it is battling for the win, they always seem to be on almost exactly the same pace, so that doesn't help us out particularly. Here we are with Sven Mackenberg. He's just starting a new lap. Let's just talk a little bit more broadly about 3 weeks ago, though, at Road America. It was Enzo Filippo who took the full 50 points from that after accumulating the most points throughout the day. Behind Nej was second overall, followed by Marvin Mackenberg, who was just referenced there. Then there was Mario Zabdir, and Luciano Vitfort was fifth in the standings from Road America, and he was the real talking point, if you remember, Dara, from that second race. He was leading, was Vitfort. He'd wiped the floor with everyone in the first race. I certainly thought that he was on his way to a second race win and a full 50 points for the second round in a row, but he had that dramatic spin at the final corner that set him backwards, sent him to the back of the field pretty much, and it's given him a little bit of work to do for the remainder of this season, these final 2 rounds.
It really has, but I mean, he's still close enough that if he wins both of these final rounds, he will take the title. But yeah, that was a big mistake that he made. I remember you and I were looking through at the end of the race because we couldn't work out what had happened when it happened in real time, because he just seemed to disappear at the final corner, but he just lost it all on his own. And how costly could that mistake be come 3 weeks' time when we get to the Nordschleife, and will he regret that mistake? It cost him the title. We'll have to wait and find out. But he'll be pushing to try and take maximum points here this evening, because he knows that he is still in a position where he could win the title. He's not completely blown it. That has cost him, arguably cost him, what could have been the championship lead. So a lot of work for him to do, in his orange and black KTM, in more of an original KTM a livery car. He's going to be trying to find as much pace as he can around his Czech circuit.
He will, and he'll need to keep an eye on Enzo Filippo as well. Let's just run through those top 5 in the drivers' standings, because we've still got 5 separated by just 22 points. Enzo Filippo is the new championship leader after second in round 1 and now first in round 2. Luciano Vittver, as we just mentioned, slipped to second as a result of that mistake. He's only 10 points behind though, and that means for those top 2, things are very much still in their own hands, and with 2 round victories they can still take the title without anything that the other can do. Marius Zabdir is in third, 17 points back at this stage, and he's tied with Marvin Mackenberg. They both finished third and fourth alternately throughout rounds 1 and 2. And then Mihai Nej, with second place at Road America, jumps up to third, although 22 points back, and with his absence here, or what I perceive to be his absence here, I can't see him in the session at the moment. I think he's going to slip away. So we're looking at a top 4 really: Enzo Filippo, Luciano Vittver, Marius Zabdir and Marvin Mackenberg. And based on the season we've seen so far, I hesitate to say that Marvin Mackenberg and Marius Zabdir have been at their limit, and they've only managed third and fourth. I think it's going to be between Filippo and Vittver to see who can take the title here. Of course, there'll be sprinklings of other drivers who are getting involved with good results, like Grotcher and Mackenberg in this qualifying session, for example. But looks like it's going to be between Filippo and Vittver, and how consistent they can be and who can beat the other over the course of the next 2 rounds.
I think it's more to know, actually. Of course, for this top ranks lobby, you get 50 points for top spot over the course of the 2 races. You get 44 for second and 50 for third. Now, with Christian Grote here, that means that if Filippo and Luciano Vittver end up second and third, that gap could close by 4. And because the title gap at the moment here is 10, with Filippo on 94 and Vittver on 84, could mean that if he's got to use. He can't just depend on beating Enzo Filippo here this evening. He's got to try and take maximum points, because if himself and Enzo Filippo finish second and third, with Vittver in second in both weeks, Filippo still wins the title. So he's still got work to do, and the fact that Christian Grote is there up at the top of the timesheets will worry him somewhat, because he knows that he's got another challenger for those extra points at the top end of the scale. And yeah, that's going to be important for the Dutchman to think about. But I mean, with Marvin Mackenberg there as well, he could get himself into the mix. But I think you're right. I think with Filippo and Vittver, they've shown the pace. If you cast your mind back to Moss, they were 1 and 2 out front by quite a distance, and Zabdir and Mackenberg were together, but about 10 seconds back from the front 2 by the end of the race. So the front 2 just had that pace, and they've had it as well at Road America without that mistake from Luciano Vittver. So I think you're correct. We've got to say that Filippo and Vittver are the 2 to look out for, but they're second and fifth at the moment. So there's a few more drivers in that mix, and he might be able to cause a few upsets in this race.
Yeah, Vittver's just been pushed down to that 5th place by Sven Mackenberg, who's gone a bit quicker there. Somebody, by the way, in the YouTube chat rightfully pointing out that this car is actually faster than the GT3s overall. It certainly is in this qualifying session. I was just looking through some GT3 lap times from real life here, and they've never gone below the 2-minute ones in real life. I know that comparing real life to sim racing is sometimes a bit of a futile comparison to make. But I have done, and yeah, the GT3s are indeed a little bit slower than this GTX, but yeah, it doesn't really fit into GT3 or GT4. It's perfect for single make racing, which is exactly what we have here in the RaceRoom Ranked Championship in 2/3 of our series. Of course, you can catch Mazda MX-5 racing one last time in 2 weeks at the Nordschleife. That is going to be a very, very interesting one indeed as they end their season as well. There's Luciano Vittver. He's down on pit lane in the final minute. He won't be improving there from that 5th place. He's given himself a lot of work to do there. And in the top 5, only Sven Mackenberg is improving in the final seconds of this session.
Yeah, and he might be able to try and just about get past his brother Marvin, because there's only 300 between them, but down in that middle sector by quite a bit, so doesn't look like he'll be improving towards the end here. I don't think Danko is close enough to the line to actually finish the lap in time either. So yeah, I think that's going to be pretty much that for the end of qualifying, but Filippo will be pleased to see both of the Mackenberg brothers between himself and Luciano Wittfurt after this qualifying session.
Let's see what the order's going to be at the end then. It's Christian Grotte taking the pole position in his first appearance in the KTM GTX trophy ahead of Enzo Filippo. Just half a second between those two. Then it's the two Mackenbergs on the next row, and that will remain. Luciano Wittfurt stays 5th with Marius Abdir there in 6th place. His front hits jumps up to 7th there with that late lap time. He improves to a 2-minute point 4. Then it's Luca D'Amico, nearly half a second back from that. George Danko and Anthony Cheval also round out the top 10. Petter Daniel is in 11th ahead of David O'Hack, and then there's Frank van Roon in 13th ahead of Felix Bjorn. Jan-Niklas Erbisch is in the 15th place ahead of Jonas Riedel. Radoslav Piatkowski is in 17th ahead of Jesper Ontis. Then there's Ismail Russell and Sebastian Gunther rounding out the top 20. Timo Lino is in 21st ahead of Joro Ullahart. Guillaume Blanc is in 23rd with Thomas Urbanek in 24th. Lix Lamora is in that 25th place ahead of Victor Navarro. Manfred Mamutek 27th ahead of Jasper Misch, and then there's Tobias Sorzinger and Matis Friedrich rounding out the top 30 for Yevgeny Lazarenko. Rounds out the 31 drivers on the grid here this evening for the KTM GTX trophy at Brno. It's a big grid and a perfectly formed grid as well, and right now Christian Grotte has taken the pole position from it. Let's hope that he's practiced the standing start though, and he can get this car underway the first 15-minute race without problems, because that is sometimes an issue for some of these drivers as warm-up just comes to a very abrupt end. And we'll get this underway. It's going to be an important start for Grotte to take the lead here and then hopefully defend from the front. He'll be hoping that it's difficult to overtake, and his job these first 15 minutes is not too challenging.
Yeah, and you mentioned those standing starts. We saw, particularly at Road America, a couple of drivers having difficulties with that standing start. Still be something that he's got to nail. But of course, with this race setting the grid for the main race, I mean, if you make a mistake here, it might be a little bit more costly than it might have been at Road America, because it may be a little bit more difficult to get those positions back over the course of that longer 40-minute race. So we might see a little bit more caution in this shorter 15-minute race from some of these drivers, but we're going to have to see if they can pull it off and get as many positions as they can to start the 40-minute race in the best position possible. But Christian Grotte will hope to just drive away from the rest of the pack, but Enzo Filippo certainly won't be too keen on that happening, and he'll be trying to take the Norwegian probably down into turn 1.
He will. Let's see though, as the final seconds of reading up now complete. 15 minutes will be put on the clock and we're ready to go racing. Christian Grotte will be alongside Enzo Filippo at the front after his first appearance results in his first pole. We get underway. It's a great start from Marvin Mackenberg from third place. He steams through the middle as Filippo goes nowhere off the start. We're almost free wide into turn 1 and it's Marvin Mackenberg from third place who jumps up to first immediately in towards turn 1. Luciano Wittfurt going backwards a little bit here in the opening moments as it's side by side for second place. Enzo Filippo looking to take that second place back once again after losing it initially to Marvin Mackenberg. It's side by side on the run up towards turn 3. Later on the break from Marius Saptir as he tries to make up some places as well. Side by side through the chicane. Luciano Wittfurt on the outside line here of Sven Mackenberg, who's not had quite the start that his brother has had here, certainly in the opening moments. It's a great one for Mackenberg. Grotte drops from first to third, and Filippo stays pretty much where he is.
We've seen very early on the fact that this track is so wide that the 2 wide can be done incredibly easy around here through turns 1, 2, 3 and 4. We just saw side-by-side action, particularly with Sven Mackenberg and Istvan Tits. But yeah, Marvin Mackenberg with a fantastic start. It's exactly what he needs if he has any hopes for this title. But Filippo getting past Grotte as well means that he's got that extra car between himself and Luciano Wittfurt, as well as we see him going around like side by side with Sven Mackenberg getting gobbled up here by a couple of drivers. Luca D'Amico might be the next one to try and have a go as we still continue on this first lap. D'Amico all the way around the outside of the German. Can he quite pull it off on the traction on the exit? We'll have to see. I don't think he will be able to, but you can just see 2 wide all the way through the pack in the background as well. This is some great racing already on the opening lap.
Still going on. Yeah, this is still side by side here between Luca D'Amico and Sven Mackenberg. The top 6 or so are absolutely single file, but look at that behind. They're absolutely not single file, I think is the way to put it. Luca D'Amico now losing out though to Sven Mackenberg, and it's going to be Danko who's now alongside him. He rips round the outside, does he? Well, not quite. Oh dear, that was contact, and a little bit of internet problems as well as they all figure themselves out. Luca D'Amico there holds on, and that's one of the drivers. I think Peter Daniel maybe in the gravel on the exit of the final turn as well. This is great racing though. The chicanes, and as you said earlier, the wideness of this circuit providing wonderful opportunities for all of these drivers to go in search of space, and they're finding it right now. Still side by side as we complete the first lap and get onto the second one.
Look at them here, 2 by 1 by 2 by 2 as they come through the first couple of corners. Absolutely insane stuff from all of these guys. Chevaloso we're looking at now, trying to come around the outside of Urbrick, I think that is. Oh, a little bit of contact into the gravel, that is. That's Peter Daniel, one of his home tracks. He's spun around at turn 4. It's not the ideal start for him, but still side by side, 2 by 2. They continue as we get through the lap, and someone else has gone around. That's Tino, I believe, going around. As he is pointing back in a straight line, but absolute chaos on the opening couple of laps, but Marvin Mackenberg continues to lead it.
Well, that's a bit of a disaster, I'm afraid to say, in the background. One of those drivers, but at the front, it's been a dream start for Sven Mackenberg. Marvin Mackenberg. Sven's not had a particularly good start, but Marvin Mackenberg certainly has. It's Enzo Filippo second, followed by Christian Grotta, then Marius Zabdir, then Luciano Wittfurt, but they're not going to be in that wave for too much longer. Zabdir makes a pretty unforced error there, it has to be said, and Luciano Wittfurt makes one of the easier passes he'll have to make today.
Straight down the inside at turn 10 for Luciano Wittfurt as they just under that little dip on the exit of the corner, but he's now into P4. He's going to have to try and get past Glurter, but of course we saw how fast he was in qualifying. He might be a stubborn target to overtake, but as we've seen all the way through the field, the fighting has been hard and has been intense. What I said about people being careful in this sprint race completely out of the window within about 5 seconds of this race getting underway, but the guys at the front are yet to have their own dose of it. So will they see a little bit more fighting in the final 11 minutes in this race? We will have to see. But Filippo sitting in that slipstream, just gaining down the straight towards turn 1 on the back of Marvin Mackenberg, and is he going to try and line up a move before the end of this first race to try and start from the from pole position? The 40-minute race, we'll have to find out, but these 1, 2, 3 look very close together, but Wittfurt and Zabdir just a little bit further behind, but they're going to have some work to do to catch up to the top 3.
And by the way, these points, give you 40% of the usual points for this sprint race, and then you get the full 100% for this next one, but the points are added up for each round, and then you get a score. You get ordered into your positions based on your points from the round, and then you get the points, if that makes any sense at all. So you don't accumulate points to your overall championship score in every single race, but at the end of each round you get added to your score. So we've got to keep a bit of an eye on that one, and especially in the case of Filippo and Wittfurt, who we're really marketing as the two big championship contenders, although Marius Zabdir and Marvin Mackenberg are very much involved as well. At the moment, Enzo Filippo would be scoring 17.6 points, which I understand is quite specific, but that's what he'll get as far as I can work out, and 14.8 to Luciano Wittfurt, and that means that either of them could still take it with a win. In fact, any of the top 4 winning the main race, the second race of the day, would take the full 50 points for the round. So that's how important the second race is. Just stay up there and then have a good start to race 2 and win that race, because if you're inside the top 4 in this one, doesn't matter where you are, then you will get the full 50 points by the end of the day.
And with so many points handed out, it means that we're definitely not going to see a title winner this evening. We're going to have to wait for 3 weeks' time at the Nordschleife to find out who takes this KTM GTX title for this ranked championship with RaceRoom. But Filippo will be definitely hoping that it is him come at the end of the races at Nordschleife in a few weeks' time, but he's still tracking Marvin Mackenberg, can't quite find the line. We mentioned that it might be slightly difficult, there aren't many hard braking zones at all here at Brno, so it might be a little bit more difficult to try and throw a shape to the inside, or maybe just try it all the way around the outside of the corner, because of course the nature of these long, flowing, sweeping corners here at Brno mean that it is difficult to do so. But I have to see, Filippo is probably, surely, I mean, he'd hope he's got a plan in his mind. You'd hope he's not just clinging on for dear life on the back of Marvin Mackenberg at the moment. But, you know, just got to question, when's that opportunity going to come for him? Where's he going to be able to make that move? And is he going to be able to make it stick for the end of this race, which we're already nearly halfway through?
It should be an 8-lap race here, by the way, and at the moment we're on lap 4 of the race, so we're about to hit the half-distance mark as Luciano Wittfurt makes his way around middle sector now. This is the long reverse sweep of the turn 7, then in towards turn 8, which is almost exactly the same, if not a little bit less tight, and then you get into turn 9, which is also a very tight corner. Trying to close the gap on that front 3, but it's not happening at the moment, and there'll be a big worry because Enzo Filippo is very close to Marvin Mackenberg as well. It looks like the Frenchman has got a little bit more speed than Mackenberg, who effectively is only in the lead as a result of that opening lap. He got a great launch off the line and did really well in turn 1 as well, but I think his race pace now is starting to show up, and the fact that Filippo has a little bit more of it is certainly starting to tell.
And I think that'll be in the back of Enzo Filippo's mind. That start that he got wasn't ideal, and he's going to have to nail it on the second attempt when we get to the 40-minute race if he wants to take the lead down towards turn 1. Marvin Mackenberg with an exemplar start, showing us all exactly how to do it to take the lead down into that opening corner. But Filippo does look closer on this occasion. Has he got quite enough to send it in towards turn 1? We'll have to find out. We've still got half the way down the straight. He might go for it here. Just backs out, or doesn't go for it, but Marvin Mackenberg just a little bit wide. Could he come through? Oh, it's getting close between the two of them.
Is, and now maybe Enzo Filippo's chance. He's got to be careful of Christian Grotte here, who's only getting closer and may choose to get involved himself. Indeed he will. Looking to the outside, going towards turn 3 now in the chicane. It's going to be a long way round here, but you do get yourself the inside for turn 4 if you can manage it. Grotte looks for that. He's not quite going to manage it. And now the problem comes for Filippo, because not only is he trying to attack, he's also got to be mindful of the defence as well. Excuse me, he can't use all of the lines that he wants to in his attack of Marvin Mackenberg for fear of being overtaken by Christian Grotte as well.
Yeah, and Luciano Wittfurt will be lapping this up at the moment, seeing the front 3 battling just that little bit. He'll just be able to gain those tenths of a second that he needs to get inside of the real core slipstream of that top 3. But Grotte, he did have a look there, didn't he? Filippo, you're right, gotta be careful, can't just look forward, gotta look behind as well. And that's the conundrum you face when you sit second place in a train. You're trying to get past that car in front, but that car behind you is just as keen to get past you as you are the car in front. So lots of work still to be done, but you can just see Filippo going a little bit wide. Grotte not necessarily following his lines, of course, there being such a wide track. You could take nearly any line around some of these corners. Through 11 now they come, then into 12. The first of these two little 90 left-right combination corners, but Filippo still in tow. Will he have enough this time around? We'll have to find out, but you'd have to argue we should have, another 3 laps at the end of this one.
Should do, based on maths, and yeah, that will indeed be the case. 3 laps too many as far as Marvin Mackenberg's concerned here, because he'll want this race win. At the moment, it's going to be a very, very difficult final few moments for him. Enzo Filippo looks a little bit threatening on the inside line again, but bobbles through the corner. He gets that all wrong. Not sure what he did wrong, if I'm honest with you, but certainly not got the run that he needed there. And Christian Grotte is going to be close again. Not close enough for any sort of move, but Filippo can't afford moments like that, really. He can't afford to let Mackenberg have a moment's rest here. He's got to keep the pressure on throughout the entirety of the remainder of the race and hope that there's a bit of an opening in these final 2.5 laps.
Yeah, every point counts for him at the moment, and he knows it, and he's got to just, keep that consistency at a track where consistency is really important. Of course, such a flowing circuit where every apex is so long, it's such a long way through the corner that you've just got to keep hitting markers every single lap around, and these guys are fighting it out. There's a lot of fighting in the mid-back. Just look at the tower, and there looks to be position changes all the way down there in the teens or so. Here we go, Danko. Oh, this is Danko and Erbrick, I think, and Riedel as well, just in behind. These 3 blue and yellow cars fighting it out as they come through this middle part of the lap. Danko on the inside. Is that Russell as well? I think Russell was involved, not Riedel. I apologise, but then going wide a little bit, Danko can Urbit come back at him. Some cracking racing between the three of these guys.
Yeah, and there has been a lot of positional changes going on further down. Drivers like Petter Daniel and Luca D'Amico have lost quite a few places in the last, not particularly Daniel actually, but Frank Van Roon did, excuse me. He's down to 21st now. Luca D'Amico down to 16th in our tower, so that's clearly problems for those two further back. And it's still side by side here through the penultimate chicane. That's turn 11 and 12 between Urbish and Russell there. Ismail Russell in the very similarly livery car. In fact, the three of them have gone for exactly the same livery, which is not particularly helpful. But Urbish now on the slightly compromised line going in towards the final corner. Will be under pressure once again, as his countryman Marvin Mackenberg is for the win here. 2 laps to go, including the one that we've just begun. This time, Mackenberg is looking comfortable, although he's looking to defend on the way towards turn 3. And as soon as he's doing that, he's inviting even more pressure onto himself, and he's cracked under his own pressure. He now goes wide at turn 3. Now Filippo's on the outside of 4. Mackenberg holds him off through there. Grotta gets closer as well. Now the race is really on with 2 minutes to go.
Vitfort and Zabdir are just about to join the party if they keep this up for any longer. Tool coming into turn 5 and turn 6, more of a double apex right-hander as they come through to this middle part of the lap. But yeah, Filippo had a chance there. He had a little look, but he wasn't able to capitalise on Marvin Mackenberg's little error through the mid-corner at turn 3. He's got to try another time, but he's not got a lot of time to do so. I mean, Marvin Mackenberg, he's still going defensive as they come through this middle sector, through 8 into 9, and now they'll run towards 10. Can he hold on? It's looking like he's going to have to really fight for it, but he's looking relatively comfortable at the moment, so long as he doesn't make another little mistake as he did in turn 3.
Oh, it's at contact as well. Filippo gets into the back of Mackenberg as he searches for this win. He's looking for race 1 glory. Not necessarily the points involved, because as I mentioned, the top 4 can all take the race win and they'll have the full 50 points by the end of the round. But we'll want that starting position, and that's the beauty of not having a reverse grid here, is that it matters to fight for this win. If not, then they'd all sit back and wait for that second race, wait for the reverse grid and wait to see who wins off of that one to try and take the points. But here, with no reverse grid, it means that all of the top 4 want to win this race. They want to start the next race from the front, and even Luciano Vitfort's closing in on them now. Final lap here at Brno. Marvin Mackenberg holding on for now, but Enzo Filippo and Christian Grotta close as ever on the last lap.
Yeah, they're really going to go at it on this final tour of this Brno circuit for race 1 of this evening, but Filippo doesn't look as close as he was last time around. Mackenberg isn't looking as defensive as he did just a couple of minutes ago, but Christian Grotta is looking, and he's looking keen to try and find a last lap overtake on one of the top 2 here, and he'll be trying everything he can to get through on Filippo or Mackenberg as they come around the final tour at the moment. Filippo looking for the move maybe to the inside as we go into turn 5 and turn 6. Can't quite find it there, and the chances are running out now for the Frenchman.
They are, but could argue the best chances are the end of the lap as well. Let's see, Mackenberg goes a little bit wide there through the long looping left-hander at turn 7, now in towards 8. He's forced to defend a little bit here as well. If he can get the good run through 8 there and in towards 9, he could have a pop, but Mackenberg goes wise to that one, and Filippo's going for the late apex and the run downhill now towards the very bottom of the circuit. Quite steeply downhill here as well, and there's a big braking zone here for Enzo Filippo to go for this. Couldn't quite do it on that occasion. Marvin Mackenberg still leads. Luciano Vitfort trying to get involved as well. Christian Grotta still sits back. Will Filippo just cut his losses and decide to start from the other side of the front row here? Or will he go for this at the final couple of corners? It's going to have to be a last chicane deal now for Enzo Filippo to win this race. At the moment, Marvin Mackenberg looks like he's got enough. In towards the penultimate turn comes the German. He'll brake late, he'll miss the apex slightly. Filippo will go for it. Inside line of the final turn, that was very close. But Marvin Mackenberg goes around the outside and will take race 1 here at Brno in the KTM GTX trophy. A great ending to the first race in round 3. Race 2 coming up with Mackenberg leading Filippo, Christian Grota and Luciano Wittbert, all with a chance of taking the full 50 points after a very, very close finish to race 1.
And they're all going to be confident, I think, going through after that race. Mackenberg did win the race, but it just felt like Filippo and Grota had the pace on them. Wittbert and Zabdi not too far behind either, and they're definitely in with a shout for the win here.
Certainly are. Marvin Mackenberg wins ahead of Enzo Filippo, Christian Grota and Luciano Wittbert, all within 1.2 seconds. Ryan Sabdi there was within 3 as well. Istvan Tits finishes in 6th place ahead of Sven Mackenberg, who fell a couple of places in that lap. Gergo Danko, Jan-Nicolas Urbis and Ismail Russell round out the top 10. Jonas Riedel and Anthony Cheval also were 11th and 12th ahead of Petter Daniel, Jesper Ontis, and then Luca D'Amico, who lost out a couple of places during that race as well. Radoslav Piatkowski was 16th ahead of Guillaume Blanc, David Ohak, Frank Van Roon and Jero Olahart, the top 20 from that race. And that's how they'll line up for the second race as well. The rest of the results coming through on your screen now with a bit of separation a bit further back. Wonder what we're going to see in race 2 though, because Marvin Mackenberg got a great launch from third and then held on to the lead throughout the rest of the race. Wonder whether we can see that again from the likes of Christian Grota, who will be starting third on this occasion, whether it will be someone else, and whether it really is that difficult to overtake, and whether the leader at the end of lap 1 is likely to be the winner of the race.
Yeah, I mean, these are all important questions for the title fight as well, of course, with such a short season, 4 races only. Every single point counts and every position is absolutely critical. So, I mean, Luciano Wittbert might be a little bit more confident, you could say, if he could try and get the run down towards turn 1 after seeing a poor start from Filippo and Grota, but he didn't exactly have the best run towards turn 1 himself. But you can see, I mean, Marvin Mackenberg's best lap there was a 2-minute 0.4, and you can see that the next 3, Filippo, Grota and Wittbert, were all inside that time. So they have got the opportunity, well, they've got the tools at their disposal to try and get past Marvin Mackenberg, but as it's always the famous saying, it's one thing to catch, another to overtake, and at a track like Brno, that is definitely the case.
Yeah, it's very wide around here, as we said earlier on, and that means that the battles go on for quite some time. But to get yourself to that battling point takes quite some time and quite a bit of work at the end as well. So, as I mentioned, top 4 in that race can all win the full 50 points with a win here in this race. And that means that for Luciano Wittbert especially, it's not quite over yet. Although he did lose out on a few points there to Enzo Filippo. He's now 2.8 behind him in terms of this round here. But, you know, if they stay up there, then the one finishing ahead of the other would allow the one who finishes ahead to score more points and so on. So, important race, especially for Wittbert here coming up, because I don't think he can really afford to lose more points to Enzo Filippo. An important race for Mackenberg as well, who will want to continue to close on Filippo as well, but they can't all do it.
No, they can't. But, I mean, it's important for Luciano Wittbert to know that, I mean, the title is still in his hands. If he wins this race and he wins next week, it doesn't matter what Enzo Filippo does. He will be the champion of KTM GTX ranked championship. So it's still in his hands if he wins this long race. But, you know, with the likes of Mackenberg, Grota and Filippo up there, it's definitely not a given, and he's going to have to fight very hard for it. Zabdir might also have something to say, but behind Zabdir, you just felt there's a little bit of a gap towards Istvan Tits and Sven Mackenberg and Gergo Danko as well, who was in P8 in that race. So you feel like the top 5 may pull away a little bit, and if Filippo and the likes of Grota and Wittbert can get past Marvin Mackenberg, you might see a bit more of a 3-horse race for the win here. But we're going to have to find out. The start's going to be critical, and we're just going to have to wait to see who can get that critical run towards turn 1.
We will. So welcome along to everybody watching on this evening here in the KTM GTX Trophy. It's round 3 live from Brno in the RaceRoom Ranked Championship for 2023. And we're looking forward to a fantastic second race. It will be Marvin Mackenberg from the front, Enzo Filippo second, with Christian Grota third. Third position being the position where Marvin Mackenberg launched from in the first race to the lead. And it's a decent start from Grutter, but not as good as Marvin Mackenberg's, who's going to hold on to this lead once again. Enzo Filippo with a pretty average start from second for the second race in a row. Luciano Vitvert holds on to fourth ahead of Marius Sabdir, who's looking up towards the inside of him towards 1 and 2. That's close between those two. It's side by side for second and for fourth. The battle for second place just single files itself out, as does the one for fourth, with Luciano Vitvert holding the inside line in towards turn 3. It's Enzo Filippo on the outside line going towards 3 and 4 though. That'll give him the inside for the right-hander here. Can he manage it and get that second place back again? Despite going up the curb, he does indeed, and Luciano Vitvert looks to benefit as well.
Grossi just went a little bit wide there, trying to get the cutback on Enzo Filippo, but he just came across Luciano Vitvert right on the piece of tarmac that he wanted to be on, and Vitvert said, thank you very much, I'll take that P3 off you and I'll go up the road after Enzo Filippo, my title rival, myself. But we see someone going off in the background, oh, someone into the wall. I think that was Luca D'Amico bouncing off the barrier there, but he's going to slip right to the back of the order. You can see it's Van Tits now trying to fight with Urba again. I think there's a spin there, yes, and that's in the mid-pack, and that's in the middle of the track, and that could be a little bit dangerous.
Zerbish, who's gone around after contact with his front ends there, I'm afraid, and Radoslav Piatkowski's been caught up in that as well. I'm afraid it's been a pretty disastrous season for Luca D'Amico so far, and this has only added to that as well. There's Gogo Danko as well in the 6th place, just ahead of Marius Sabdir. Not actually sure how he got through there, because Sabdir was challenging Vitvert not so long ago, and he's allowed Grotta through, Mackenberg and Danko as well now, so not sure what happened to the Polish driver. His championship chances slipping away a little bit with this result at the moment. They head towards the final corners towards the end of this opening lap, and it's been a relatively orderly start at the front. Mackenberg and Filippo have held on to their places, but behind there's been a lot of battling, and unfortunately down the back there's been a few incidents.
Yeah, just like in race 1 we've seen a few incidents in race 2, but with Luciano Vitvert just behind Enzo Filippo, he knows that the car in front of him, realistically where the title lies, he's got to get past the Frenchman in front of him if he wants to win the title. And I think if he stays just behind Filippo for most of this race, we might see a bit of a lunge towards the end, because it's so critical for him to pick up more points in this event than Enzo Filippo if he wants to take the title. That gap is 10 points. If he can finish ahead, it comes down to around 6, could be 4 if he wins this race, but if he finishes behind, that gap's going to grow. 14, maybe 16 points behind the Frenchman, and he cannot afford to be that far back going into the final race when they've both been incredibly consistent, if you forget Vitvert's mistake at Road America, which arguably is costing him an easier run towards the title. But through this second lap they come, no one trying to make too many moves at the moment. It's a longer race, of course, so there won't be that urge to get on with the move as early as it did in race 1, but still tight racing between a lot of these drivers.
There's also been an incident in this region because Gogo Danko has dropped down quite substantially now. He's way outside the top 20, and I'm afraid that's been the story for quite a few of these drivers, especially in the top 10. It's pretty spread out for this early on in the race, but I think there's been a lot of incidents. By the way, Yevgeny Lazarenko gets through into the top 20 as well. He started the first race from 31st, so he's having a pretty decent day. He exit round the outside, on the inside of Lamora, there in the 20th place, holds on to that place and defends again towards 11 and 12, which is a bit of a bizarre one. Lamora goes to the outside, doesn't get anywhere with that on that occasion, as Marvin Mackenberg leads once again. He held on for 15 minutes before to win the opening race. Can he hold on for 40 here with the relentless assault of Enzo Filippo just on behind?
And you could say he's been a bit of a tough nut to crack this evening. I mean, 15 minutes where he stayed in the lead, and the first 5 here, he has not rescinded that advantage. And yeah, Enzo Filippo's got some work to do, but Vitvert as well knows that if Filippo passes Mackenberg, he must pass Mackenberg. There is no other equation. Is what he must do. So a lot of musks for these guys at the front in the championship. The guys in the mid-pack that we saw fighting, Lamora, Abaniak, who haven't been here and who aren't in the title fight at the moment, might have a little bit more of freedom to try and fight, just have a bit more fun, not really fighting, not really considering the need for maximum points, so they might have a bit more fun in the mid-pack. But yeah, Hülkenberg, Filippo, Vitford, the top three, and I think they'll be the top three in the championship come the end of the day at this rate.
I think so. And at the moment, if things were to stay as they are, Mackenberg will be the big gainer out of the day. In fact, that the way they are in this on the road right now would be how they finish the day in terms of their points as well, first, second and third, or the three of them. So that makes things a little bit easier, I suppose, but still just give Filippo a big advantage coming into that final round. He would have 14 points on Wittbert, for example, and 11 still on Mackenberg, so would be an ideal position for Filippo to stay in. However, he won't want to just stay in this position at the moment. He'll want to go through it, and he certainly showed signs in that first race that he was able to go through. I think he is quicker than Mackenberg, but he's got to find his way past, and luckily for him, he's got more than double the time now in this second race to actually find a way.
Yeah, I mean, he's got miles of time. I mean, if we're looking at what, around a 20 lap race, maybe a 19 lap race, on the knife edge, of course, about a 2 minute lap until the pole time at 1:59.7, so just under. It just depends what pace they're going at. I think they're going at just over 2 minutes a lap at the moment, so how many we get, but still 19-20 laps. A long time for Filippo to consider, line up, and then make the move on Marvin Mackenberg. And that isn't really gaining him. Mackenberg has got a good enough pace that Filippo is still maintaining a good gap to Luciano Wittfurt behind him, and Christian Gröter as well is being pulled along, but the top four are pulling away from Sven Mackenberg, who's now in 5th. Zabdir behind him, of course, not very far behind him, looking at that camera angle into turn 3 and turn 4, and these two might be fighting it out for 5th and 6th for the majority of this race, as the top four lose heaps of time by going at it at each other.
They certainly will do, although the field is pretty spread out already. This is a good battle, though. Ismail Russell has been involved in everything today. Well, not everything, but a lot of the battling anyway. It's Riedel down the inside this time, and Anthony Chavel also is trying to get there as well. Russell trying to hang on to this top 10 position, and so far has managed to do so. Riedel through into 9th place, and I think with the way that Russell went really wide through turn 6 there, or turn 5, excuse me, that he would lose place as well, but he's held on to it and continues on in that position as the top four close in again. Mackenberg, Filippo, Wittbert and Gröter, a little bit of a class above the rest of the field early on, you'd have to say.
Yeah, they are pulling away very well indeed. 3 liveries for the 4 drivers. I quite liked Riedel's livery there. That was quite nice. Pink colour on that card. I think that's what we've seen so far this evening. We've seen a lot of that blue and yellow one, as we've seen on Filippo and Gröter, but Filippo will be hoping it's the winning livery as he looks towards the inside, but pulls out just about the final couple of corners at 13 and 14. He tried it, didn't he, at the end of that last race into 14. I think he might have a little bit more time to make it at a more reasonable overtaking spot in the next 31 minutes and 47 seconds, but he's got a lot of time to think about it, a lot of time to try and make the move, but it's just when he does and if he can. You can see how close he is, just over a tenth, between 1 and 2 tenths. Behind Marvin Mackenberg through that opening corner, but it's just not close enough to try and throw a shape to the inside. And we are again, aren't we, Ewan? We're just waiting to see if they're going to try and make the move, and yeah, as he goes a little bit wide, Filippo, and Wittfurt might have a little bit of a sniff.
Yeah, it's easy to make a mistake around here. There's a lot of region on this circuit where you can get your line wrong, but you can also stay on the road. And that means that mistakes are quite costly in terms of getting yourself out of line. You can open the door without knowing sometimes, but looking to step into that empty door there with Enzo Filippo just up in front, going a little bit wide on the way towards turn 3, but it didn't happen quite on that occasion. Filippo looking to maximise that exit off of turn 7. Quite happened for him, had to lift off just at the end of it there, and but closes in again, enters a little bit higher towards turn 9 there, looking for a bit of a better exit. Does he get it? Well, not really, because Filippo has made good use of the exit curbing there. So with nearly 10 minutes gone, they're absolutely locked together, and you do wonder how many of the 30 remaining minutes we're going to be seeing this pattern emerge where these four are in these positions and struggling to overtake one another.
I mean, lots of laps to go, but I just wonder how many overtaking opportunities we might find through this bit of flowing track here at Brno. up and down, left to right. I mean, it's so wide as well, which means that any number of lines can be taken through all of these corners. Of course, with them being so long, with exits being important, any number of lines can be taken. As we're seeing, that is 4 different lines from the top 4 drivers through turn 14 at the final corner. You can just see Grete taking a bit of a tighter line than Vitfert, and he's quite close to the back of the Dutchman. The Dutchman will just definitely be hoping to be looking forward rather than back through this race. Cannot afford to lose any ground whatsoever for the end, because of course, as we've mentioned, every point does matter. But as they come through this little flicker turn 2 and then on towards turn 3, they're still not close enough at this stage of the race. And I mean, this pattern is starting to emerge with Vitfert and Grete, but as well as with Filippo and Mackenberg. But they're looking like he might try and go through with one Sven here if he can try and find it towards turn 5.
I think he should be able to manage it based on the pace in race 1 that Marius Abdir had, especially compared to Sven Mackenberg, who did struggle in that opener actually. Just a little bit, dropped to 7th, but he's back to where he qualified now. In that 5th position, I believe he qualified in that region anyway. That did Sven. It's going to be difficult to hold on from Marius Abdir here, who's beginning to slip away from these front 4 and maybe slip away from the championship fight as well. We know that Mihanes is going to be the championship fight after this one, despite coming 2nd at Road America. He's not here today, and so it's going to put an end to his chances, and maybe to Anthony Cheval also as well, who is 6th in these standings, by the way, now fighting for only 9th place with Jonas Riedel. It's a good fight here, and they're showing that overtaking is possible. But this is only the battle for the last spots inside the top 10 at the moment, and not between the leaders for the lead, which is kind of what we're all hoping for.
Yeah, exactly, and Riedel and Svala are so giving us a little bit of a dose of what we might see in the remaining half hour at the front, or at least we hope so. Climbing that inside curve there. Lovely dark, lovely pink. I quite like that car. I won't keep that a secret. But Filippo is still on the back. Can he find a line through the final corner? I mean, this is the kind of time, Ewan, where surely a lot of these guys are just going to be trying to find different lines, see if anything works to gain an extra 100th, because we are really talking just 1 or 2 hundredths in it between being able to look for the move and actually being able to go for it here, because then towards turn 3, if you're within the 10th, you might be able to send it, but if you're outside of 10th, it's just not worth your time, really.
Well, let's see. Marvin Mackenberg and Enzo Filippo have sort of stopped fighting with one another a little bit, and they've been able to get away from Vitfert and Grete as a result over the last couple of laps. But as soon as that pressure is going to get back onto the German again, you feel that the front 4 is going to close up again. But maybe it would be smart for Filippo to just let this one lie for 10 minutes or so, get away from the others, and then fight a little bit, because if he's got that bit of space behind, he can start to experiment with a few different lines through some of these corners, start to go a little bit wide in a few places where he otherwise wouldn't be able to if Vitfert was right behind him.
Yeah, exactly, and it just creates that little added dimension, doesn't it, of some of these drivers have just got to keep their concentration when there isn't as much wheel-to-wheel action. They've just got to keep focused on what's in front of them and what's behind them, because if not, then they may find themselves making that little error that could cost them a position, which will be critical at this stage in the championship. But Luciano Vitfert, maybe he'll be starting to think, if he can't get past Filippo, in the back of his mind he'll be thinking about that final corner at Road America 3 weeks ago, where he just lost that rear end, sent himself into the gravel and tumbling down the order, which cost him important points in this championship when he had the pace to probably go on for the win there. So, no, with 26 minutes, not a lot it's promised to happen in front of us. They've got to be thinking about where their opportunities lie, where they can try and make the move, because they've got to be positive. Otherwise, if you're in a negative state of mind at this stage of the race, you're only going to fall back into the clutches of the drivers behind you. So you've got to keep positive, got to be looking forward and trying to be finding those lines to get past that driver in front.
Christian Grota certainly is looking forward at the moment towards Luciano Vitfert, but at the moment that's not happening either in terms of an overtake as we embark on lap 8 now. This was when we ended the opening race. We're going on for another 25 minutes in the second, and that will be music to Enzo Filippo's ears, who find his way through a quarter of an hour earlier. not been able to find his way through in another quarter of an hour now, and he's going to have another 25 minutes, thankfully, for him to try and make this move. There will become a point, though, where you begin to weigh it up and weigh whether this is worth it, because at the moment he would still be gaining 4 points on Luciano Vitt. Things would very much still be in his own hands at the Nordschleife for Enzo Filippo if things were to stay as they are in terms of the championship fight. So maybe there will be a stage in the race where this overtaking is actually going to be so difficult and so interspersed with risk by the end of this race that you may decide that it's actually not worth it by the end of all of this.
Yeah, I mean, that's a nice position to be in, isn't it? Where you can just decide not to make the overtake even if you can, just because it's not worth the risk of losing the position to Vitford. I mean, he might also be thinking, on the other hand, that if he gets past Vitford and can gain maximum points, I think he would finish he'd probably gain 10 points Vitford and would give him a 20-point lead going into the Nordschleife, which, I mean, it would take a lot. It would take a big mistake for Enzo Filippo to then give up that advantage in the final round. But as it is, of course, that gap will be going out, likely going out as it stands to 14. So, you know, that's still a big advantage. It would require quite a big blip from him. I mean, even if he finished in 4th overall, it would require... it wouldn't matter what Luciano Vitford does, even if he won next time out in the Nordschleife. If Filippo was 4th, he'd still take the title. So it's very, very much in his hands. And after showing such consistency in the opening couple of rounds, it'd be hard to argue that he won't get it. 2nd at Most, 1st at Road America, heading for 2nd here as well. It would take a lot to take him off that top spot from the moment, I would imagine.
Certainly the odds in favour of Enzo Filippo at the moment, not necessarily in terms of this race because of the difficulty in overtaking, but in this championship he is in control. Christian Grotta struggling to make any impression on Luciano Vitford at the moment. They're both slipping away from that leading 2 at the front of the field. Other battles that are going on up and down the order include the one for 5th place between Sven Mackenberg and Maris Sabti. Kind of saw the best of that earlier on in this race, really, when they were a bit closer. Now they're just over half a second apart, excuse me. David Ohak is at the front of a bit of a battle at the moment from 12th place on backwards. Includes Kasper Misch, who's trying to hold back Jan Niklas Erbisch here, who's looking to regain some of those places after the spin at this very corner, back at turn 8 on the opening lap, I believe it was. He's looking for the move now, and that was a bit of a dive towards the inside through turn 9. Didn't quite happen for him there, as he looks for 13th place.
Interesting line through 8 there from Erbisch there, because he looked like he just basically tried to take all the momentum and give up any momentum through turn 9 just to try and get the inside line for the corner, because that would see him passing up into P13, but as he is still in P14 at the moment. But Filippo looks a little bit closer than he has in the past, and so does Greta. So maybe we are seeing these Hawaiian cars maybe going for it sooner rather than later. Yeah, look at that. Vitford feeling the need to defend here on the inside into turn 1, but Greta, that outside line, not quite working for him this time around. But nearing half distance in this race, and we're still Mackenberg, Filippo, Vitford and Greta. How long are we going to see the top 4 in that order?
Well, at the moment, it's been the case for the first half of this race, but how much longer? Filippo closes on Mackenberg there, who just makes a bit of a mistake through turn 3 and 4, but the Frenchman hasn't really made the best use of it at all. The exit off of turn 4 nowhere near good enough for any sort of look here in the middle sector, and once again the weight goes on here for Enzo Filippo to try and take this one, but it's getting less and less pressure from those behind. He's got more of a free hit now to have a go, and I'm somewhat surprised he hasn't given it a go just yet, but you can understand his position. He doesn't want to risk everything with the championship very much in his hands at the moment, even being in this position, although there is a counterpoint to that Marvin Mackenberg maybe doesn't need all of this momentum going into that final round. Spoke about momentum earlier with John a bit, but how at race 2 at Road America that was rather taken away from the Dutchman. Well, now it goes with Enzo Filippo, but does Marvin Mackenberg pick up a bit of that forward momentum with a double win here?
Yeah, definitely so, and I think it's a bit of a surprise to you and I, Ewan, that Marvin Mackenberg, because we mentioned him at the top of the broadcast as being in that title fight, but he wasn't exactly a man that we were considering for taking the title, but he was still there. But this is the performance that can shoot him right up into contention for the title. I mean, as it stands, he could be taking second in the overall standings. He might still be third behind Luciano Vitfort, but he will close that gap to Enzo Filippo to, as it stands, 11 points. So it's still possible for him, and he might end up closing to the point where he can really put the pressure in the final race. Actually, yes, he would be second overall as things stand. Of course, but now 50 for the overall evening win. So, I really shot into contention this evening after that start. That start, how critical could that prove to be? Just those 5 seconds on the acceleration between the start line and turn 1, which can really shape his championship charge here.
It's kind of bizarre that a whole season is going to possibly boil down to just that acceleration off of the line, but at the moment, that's effectively what's separating Marvin Mackenberg from the rest. Of course, he's had to execute another start here at the start of race 2, and that was almost as impressive in terms of staying ahead of Filippo and Vitfort. It was who was actually providing more of a challenge towards turn 1, but that's effectively what it's boiling down to here at Brno, and I think that's useful to know heading into next week as well. I know that the GT3 Pro Series is an entirely different prospect, and it's all well and good, but it's important to know that the lead is very, very important. Qualifying next week is going to be exceptionally important, and then that start as well in the GT3 Pro Series is going to be one to watch out for, because as we've seen, especially at the front of the field, it's hard to get past once you're kind of stuck in this second position, sort of rooted to it, and there's just no way through the driver in front.
And we see, a few of the guys next week in the GT3 series. We're looking at Vitfort, Marvin Mackenberg, Marius Zabdir, who are up there in the GT3 series, who are also up there in this KTM series. So they will also be learning with every lap that goes past on where it can be important. Of course, they'll know how important qualifying is. If they didn't already know, it'll solidify that. It might mean that they focus their next week of practice on the 1 lap pace rather than the longer stints, because the longer stints, doesn't matter how fast you are, you can't overtake. It just doesn't matter how fast you are. So, that might be a consideration that some of these guys take. Sven, looking at Sven here in 5th, Zabdir still on the back, and these two haven't fallen that far back from the top 4. I mean, they're still, about 4 or 5 seconds off the back of the leaders, so not too far back at all, but not too far back to have any say in this race. We see Filippo, he's close again, but just can't find that move, and it feels like Groundhog Day at this point, where Filippo is not able to get past, and Mackenberg is just holding firm there. He is like a stone that doesn't move. So yeah, really good showing from Marvin Mackenberg this evening.
I think a stone that doesn't move is called a rock, but yeah, I see your point at the moment. Marvin Mackenberg certainly proving to be in the way of Enzo Filippo, and it's looking pretty good for him now. The German has even got a couple of car limps on the Frenchman now. John Vitfort's got a bit to worry about here with Christian Grotte as well, of course, after that opening race, especially right. Because of course that will mean points possibly able to be taken away from him. Grotte was 3rd in the opener, Vitfort in 4th. They're now reversing places, and that means Vitfort would finish in 3rd for the overall day, scoring 40 points on the round. But that's only if he stays in front of Grotte. This position would cost him a few points if he were to lose it.
Yeah, there'll be vital points towards the end. Luciano Vitfort, he's had the pace in all 3 rounds. That mistake, as we've mentioned in Road America, could prove to be incredibly costly. We'd be talking about this situation very differently if he had won that race in Road America, because he would be losing points to Enzo Filippo, but he would still be the championship leader. It wouldn't be as much of a concern. So that moment is big. He knows that Christian Grotte has got to stay behind him if he wants to win this title. That is an absolute must, I think. Grotte gets past, that is championship over, because then he'll definitely be quite a ways behind Marvin Mackenberg at that point, and he's got to get past 2, well, he's got to depend on the results of 2 drivers in that case, which is increasingly more unlikely. Marvin Mackenberg, I don't know if he went a little bit defensive there. I mean, he's comfortable enough in front of Enzo Filippo, a bit more of a metamorphic rock than a sedimentary rock. My GCC geography knowledge helping me out on that one. But yeah, I mean, we're still seeing them coming through. They're 2x2x2 at the moment, top 6. It feels a bit like Most again. Yeah, maybe the Czech Republic just serves up these little couplets towards the end of race 2.
Well, I think Most had more overtaking than this race so far, I would argue, as we have to go a little bit further back to Ryan Fine. So Frank Van Roon and Gugu Danko have both had issues so far in race 1 and 2 respectively. Danko's issues coming in this race, Frank Van Roon dropping back in the opener. So they may be reliable sources of overtaking here, maybe even on each other. As we saw a little bit of a move down towards turn 3, and now we're starting to see a little bit with this battle what the track can do once you start a battle. Obviously it's difficult to kick one off, as we've seen, but once you are in a battle, there's a lot of space to go searching for here, and you have to do a lot of defending from the front as well if you are trying to hold on to a place. Yeah,
and there's a lot. I mean, there is a lot of fighting to be had when the drivers do go side by side because of the amount of lines and the amount of different routes around each corner you can take. So when it does start, it takes a while to end. So maybe if we do see a move attempted in the next 13-14 minutes or so at the front, we might see the fighting go on for a few corners as well. Lamora is looking like trying to find a line where he could capitalise on Danko and Van Roon's little fight here for P18. Back up to the front, nearer the front, Sven Mackenberg and Marius Zabdir still going at it. Another nice livery on Marius Zabdir's car there. He's right up the back of Sven Mackenberg, and he might be able to go from the move here. We might see an overtake into turn 3.
Maybe now will be the chance. If you can hang it round here, you get the inside for 4 if Zabdir holds it close, but if you just go a little bit deeper on the brakes, then you can hold on to the place, as Sven Mackenberg very ably shows. Round to turn 4 they'll go. It's not going to be this time for Marius Zabdir by the looks of things. He'll have to search for another opportunity. I know that Enzo Filippo doesn't want to risk anything here, but I think these little battles have shown that if he does try and just kick things off with Marvin Mackenberg, then you don't know what can happen. As soon as he's offline once, then this circuit can provide some oddities sometimes. Although he does have the problem now of actually not being anywhere near Marvin Mackenberg, because the German has actually stretched his legs a little bit and now has a bit of an advantage, a bit of a gap.
It does, yeah, it's grown out to just over half a second between Marvin Mackenberg and the championship leader Enzo Filippo, and I mean that'll give Marvin some confidence, or is it just Filippo gathering himself together to go for a push in the last few laps? Zabdir still going at it as they come towards 11 and 12. Can he loop it all the way around the outside? He's got to get his tap dancing shoes on very early if he was going to go for that one, but can't quite pull it off. They come through turn 12. Yeah, I mean, the pole, maybe he's probably fallen out of contention with this result as it runs currently. I don't think he'll be anywhere near close enough to take the title, but he's still very keen to get past Sven Mackenberg. And will he try a little bit of a reverse line through the final corner to get that run towards turn 1? He's definitely going to have a go. Is he going to go inside or outside? He's going to go outside. Let's see if he can take P5 here.
Marius Zabdir looking for these points, especially compared to Sven Mackenberg. He goes around the outside of turn 1. This will be exceptionally impressive if you can go all the way around here. It's almost an entire switchback for yourself there. And Marius Zabdir is going to have to look elsewhere, because that's not going to happen. It's outside line of turn 3. It's almost a replay of the previous lap, and if he can brake later, he stands more of a chance. He's absolutely level this time, and if he can hold it there, he'll have the inside for turn 4, showing that it can be done. Around the outside for Sven Mackenberg as the two run side by side on the exit of the corner. It's a good exit from Sven Mackenberg, and Marius Zabdir has to tuck back into line again.
But as we did see there, I mean, we mentioned it beforehand, that when the battling has started, it goes on for a few corners. It isn't just a one corner send, and on the exit, they're single file. There is fighting corner after corner. I mean, we nearly had it side by side into turn 5 and turn 6 there, between Sven Mackenberg and Marius Zabdir. Some really good stuff between these two, and Zabdir is not done yet as they come in towards turn 9 and turn 8 and turn 9, I should say, before the run down towards turn 10. Zabdir looks hungry for this P5. He knows knows that every point he can will help him, and maybe, just maybe, if there is a big crash next time out at the Nordschleife, he might still be in the shop for the championship.
Yeah, you know you're in trouble if you're hoping for one of those. I mean, not impossible at the Nordschleife, of course, but say you are in a little bit of trouble if you're preying on it. A bit of a word on the Nordschleife next week, by the way, because I know we were talking about the relatively few amount of laps around here with the 2-minute lap. It's going to be even fewer next or in 3 weeks' time, of course, because with the length of the Nordschleife, I think the opening race of the day is only going to be 2 laps. And that's a real sprint race to start off with. 5 or 6 it will be for the second race, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is in reality will be quite a lot. So we'll wait and see what the Nordschleife has to offer for us. But one thing is for absolutely sure is that it won't be very many laps for these drivers to negotiate.
Yeah, which will make it a little bit more interesting. They can't really consider where to make the move lap on lap because, of course, with it being such a long lap, they can't really decide. They've just got to go for it if they've got a little opportunity to do so, of course. It's an iconic motorsport circuit. Filippo, is he going to go for the move? Oh, he's going to try it to the inside of 4. I don't think he's going to quite able to pull it off, but they're going to maybe go side by side into turn 5 if Filippo can get this exit right.
Well, he was stuck between the curb on the inside there and Marvin Mackenberg on the outside, but this time Enzo Filippo has started to apply the pressure. 3rd and 4th will likely catch up as well. Bippert and Grota will gain on this lap now as a result of that side by side, but what I believe is maybe 5 laps to go, possibly 4. The racing is now properly kicked off. These two are battling with one another. Should be 4th laps to go when we get to the line, by the way. 4 more chances for Enzo Filippo to make his way through.
And he does look keen, and this is the time in the race where we were thinking that it could be on for some of these drivers. You said earlier that Filippo might just consider sitting back, just taking the 2nd place and taking those points. That is absolutely not his frame of mind. He wants to take this race win, and he wants to take it convincingly at this Brno circuit. Just coming into turn 12 now. Will he be considering it this next time around? I did mention a couple of laps ago that maybe he's just gathering himself up for a last few laps attack on the back of Marvin Mackenberg, and that seems like it really is the case. He is very keen to get this move done, and will he be able to do it? Final corner again, maybe? No, not quite. Got about, what, 4 laps, I think, to the end now, because they should... yeah, I think 4 laps to the end, so time is running out for Enzo Filippo. Can he find his way past?
Will it be at the final corner on the last lap? He did go for that on the opening race. Is he going to go for that move again? They make their way around turn 1 through the very much more gentler turn 2 and towards 3 and 4 where the action all kicked off 1 lap ago. Enzo Filippo was on the outside here. He had a look towards the inside of 4 as well. Didn't quite come off for him there, but he has shown that with a really speedy exit off of turn 3, he can have a dive at turn 4. The nature of this circuit, it is relatively easy to get side by side with your driver in front, but because of the space that the track offers, but actually getting to that point in terms of overtaking is pretty tricky. So far, Marvin Mackenberg has perfected this job. After all, he spent more than 50 minutes leading the field around now over the course of the evening. So, well, sorry, approaching 50 minutes now in this race, or in the evening overall. So he's getting pretty good at it, and he knows what Enzo Filippo can do. He's had that car following now for a long time. And once you are there for a long time, you do feel like you've got the driver behind you under control.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter how many corners you lead, as long as you lead the final one. So that might mean the back of Filippo's mind, he won't really care if he sits in behind and gets him into the final corner on the final lap, because he'll still win the race, and that is all that matters. You know, you can spend 39.5 minutes just looking at the back of a fellow KTM GTX car, and then spend the last 30 seconds with a clear road in front of you, and that is all that you need to win a Grand Prix there, to win a race in this ranked championship. But Mackenberg around the final couple of corners, he knows that there's not long left now, but he can't become complacent. He can't make any little error, because if he does, Enzo Filippo is going to absolutely gobble him up, and he will take maximum points here. Can he go for it in turn 1? Looks a little bit far back, we'll find out.
Well, once again, it's not close enough. Mackenberg slides a little bit wide there through turn 1. late apex from the both of them. As by the way, Luciano Vimper gets within a second of the leader as well now. That's going to prove to be a problem for them all, I think. Down in towards 3 and 4 they go again. Filippo looking for this way through, trying again and again. With 5 minutes to go, still can't find his way through. And of course, as mentioned earlier on, there is the problem of him actually wanting to go through at this point. Luciano Vimper's certainly going to want to overtake him. He absolutely wants this second place, and you wonder how aggressive this is going to get in the final 5 minutes.
And of course, 2.5 laps to go for these guys. So time is a ticking for them to make these moves stick. We're looking at what, about 5 corners or so towards the end of the race. So with every couple of seconds that passes for every turn of that steering wheel, there becomes less of an opportunity to take the race win. But Vitford does look like he's gaining a bit, doesn't he, on the top 2 as well? Can he have something to say maybe on the final lap here, as the top 4 are starting to concertina up? Marvin Mackenberg maybe feeling the pressure a bit as we get into the final stages of this race.
Oh, there it is. Filippo gets to the inside very closely around the hairpin of turn 10, and with 2 laps to go, maybe this race is about to kick into life between these 4. There's been fighting, of course, going on further back, but between these top 4, it's been single file right from the very start. Now in the final 2 laps, maybe we're starting to see something from Enzo Filippo. He's giving us a little bit of hope that maybe he has the tools to maybe win this race. He looks a little bit wider on the way towards the final turn. A smoother run through, a better exit maybe, and maybe a dive down the inside as well. They'll all come across the line, the top 4, absolutely as one. There's 2 laps to go, just 3.5 minutes. Filippo looks to the inside again. It's not going to happen this time.
No, it's not, but he might have another one towards turn 3. Any side-by-side fighting between the top 2 is going to invite Luciano Vitford straight into the battle for the win, and Filippo knows that he can't afford that to happen whatsoever. We can see here Vitford's view of the battling top 2, and he can just see how he's getting that little bit closer, but the mistake, the slide through turn 3, can that invite Greta up the outside? It can. Greta, can he find his way all the way around the outside through turn 4? He'll have to try and get into 5 and 6 if he can. The exit not ideal. Is that going to cost? Him an attempt? As we see Marvin Mackenberg still defending. This race has really come alive now.
It has. Final minutes of this one, and Enzo Filippo's finally looking for this way through. Looks up the inside of turn 7 as well. That's very close, but it would have been a tight one to make as well. But he's just hanging back again. Marvin Mackenberg having led all of the laps so far, not only the 8 in race 1, but also the 18, or 17, excuse me, so far in this race. He's now looking for the race win to go with it. Leading on the last lap is all that matters, really, and Enzo Filippo wants to take that away from him. Luciano Vitford's got to stay a bit closer than this as well, because that mistake on this lap has really given him a lot of work to do. If he wants to capitalise on Filippo using some different lines, he does need to close in.
Really does, and he's got to take every little advantage he can. What we've got now, about 16 corners to the end of this race. The timer is ticking down, less than 2 minutes to go, so the timer will hit 0 before they get to this point on the next tour of this Brno circuit. Is Filippo going to go for it into the final corner? Once again, he's going to try it. Will it come off? I don't think it will, but will this invite Luciano Vitford with a good run out of the final corner?
Has got a good run, and there may be a chance in towards turn 1, but Filippo's got the slipstream of Mackenberg, don't forget, and so that's going to hamper him a little bit. 90 seconds remaining, 1 lap around here at Brno to settle this one. Marvin Mackenberg still leads, as he has done all day long. He slides on the way out of turn 1, Filippo goes off. Vitford looks for both of them. He's got through on Filippo, who makes a mistake, and Marvin Mackenberg has thrown it away as well. He looks towards the inside. Luciano Vitford takes the lead. What a dream for him. What a disaster for Filippo, who's going to lose almost all of his championship lead now.
We're looking at Enzo Filippo leading the championship by more than 10 points just about 30 seconds ago. Now we're looking at a tied championship between Enzo Filippo and Luciano Vitford with 1 round to go as we head to the Nordschleife. Is that a championship-defining move for Luciano Vitford into turn 3? He was able to capitalise on the mistake from Mackenberg, from the mistake from Enzo Filippo, and he has snuck his way into top spot. And here comes Filippo to the inside.
how he's made it work. Suddenly, as the battle becomes for second place, Enzo Filippo gets through, and he will preserve his championship lead. Marvin Mackenberg, after leading all day long, is going to have his heart broken at the end here pretty much, because at the moment, Luciano Bitford looks like he's on his way to a race win. What drama on the very last lap. A mistake from Marvin Mackenberg has cost him a surefire win there, and Enzo Filippo's mistake has also cost him the win throughout turn 1 and 2. It's going to be Luciano Bitford who will lead them up the hill for the final time, towards the final couple of corners. He's not had the best pace of his season so far. He's not had the best pace of this top four even. In fact, he may have even been the slowest over the course of the day, but he's capitalised when he needed to. Filippo throws it all at him at the very end, but Luciano Bitford is going to take a statement win here at Brno to take the full 50 points from the round and keep this championship alive in 3 weeks' time at the Nordschleife. What drama at the end, and great driving from Bitford to take advantage of all that was going on in front of him.
I mean, we sat here for about 35 minutes and not a peep from any of the top four in terms of trying to make a move. But those final 2 laps, we have seen a massive swing in the championship. Luciano Bitford is suddenly completely back into contention. It means that next time out at the Nordschleife, winner takes all between them. What a result for him, but gutting for Marvin Mackenberg, who led all but 1 lap in both races.
What a finale that was. Luciano Bitford wins the race ahead of Enzo Filippo and Marvin Mackenberg, who joined him on the podium. Christian Grotta watched it all unfold from 4th. Marius Abdir finishing in 5th place with Sven Mackenberg in 6th ahead of Istvan Tic, Petr Daniel, Steve Chaval also, and Jonas Riedel rounding out the top 10. In 11th place, it was Jan-Niklas Urbis, who recovered well from his opening lap spin. Jesper Misch finishes in 12th ahead of Jesper Ontis, then Jaro Olahar in 14th. Felix Bjorn was 15th ahead of Nix Lamora, gained a few places throughout the day. Guga Danko never really recovered from his opening incident. Radoslav Piepkowski got up to 18th ahead of Guillaume Blanc and Ismail Russell, who did drop quite substantially throughout that race as well. The rest of the results will drop through the rest of your screen. What a statement win that is for Luciano Bitford. Winning here means that he has taken the full 50 points away from Enzo Filippo, who take the 44, and that means that the gap between the two of them will be reduced to just 4 points going into the final race at the Nordschleife. And you've got a feel for Marvin Mackenberg now as well, who now slips to over 20 points behind Enzo Filippo by the end of the day. I mean, if you could say that anyone deserved to win that race and deserved to take the full 50 points from the round, it was Marvin Mackenberg, who led all but 1 lap today.
I mean, if my math serves me well, I mean, we were looking at going into the... with 1 lap to go, Marvin Mackenberg would have been 11 points behind Enzo Filippo in 2nd place in the championship going into the Nordschleife. Just about 5 corners later, Luciano Bitford shot himself back up into 2nd and only 4 behind Enzo Filippo. So, absolute drama between the two of them. And I believe if Luciano Bitford finishes in maybe if he finishes in 2nd and Filippo in 3rd, he might still be able to take it on the countback, but so close now going into the Nordschleife. If Marvin Mackenberg could have held on in front of Filippo, we might have had a tied championship heading into the Nordschleife, which would have served us all sorts of drama, but as it is, with only 4 points in it, it's pretty much nothing, and now cannot wait for that Nordschleife round in 3 weeks' time.
It's well worth tuning in for, so make sure that you do here in 3 weeks' time. There it is, the Nordschleife, 30th of August. Make sure you join us for that one here on the RaceRoom YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe and stick around, because the GT3 Pro Series is coming up in 1 week's time here from Brno as well on the 16th of August. So make sure you join us once again for that. For now, though, we'll be signing off for the evening. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside Darren Thacker. What drama we have seen at the end of the race here at Brno. Round 3 of the RaceRoom Ranked Championship, setting us up perfectly for a trip to the Nordschleife in 3 weeks' time. I hope that you will join us for that. But until then, it's goodbye for now.
Do you also feel the same as this car enthusiast? He's reached his vehicle dream, but suddenly the original black wheels seem a bit boring. A colourful detail would add a lot more pep. And a little eye-catcher to match the paint would make the car perfect. Customization options don't only transform the wheel to visually match the vehicle, but also provides one-of-a-kind look on the road. The wheel color, rim protectors, center caps, valve caps, and even the wheel bolts can be configured and designed individually using style components of the new BBS Unlimited wheel system. And here's how it works. The BBS Unlimited base wheels are available in a total of 8 different colors, whether it be a glossy, satin, or polished finish, or from a deep indigo blue to racing gold to a rich bronze. Rim protectors are a colorful detail to visually enhance the wheel while preventing damage from curb contact. In addition, the rim protectors can easily and quickly be replaced and renewed at any time. In total, 6 different designs are available. The center cap completes the wheel. So how cool would it be if it could also be customized? BBS Unlimited Style makes this possible. It's available in 56mm and 70.6mm diameters and can be applied in a variety of ways with the BBS logo. The center cap is available in 2D or 3D embossing, as well as in several color variations. And with the 3D rotation cover, the BBS logo remains visible to everyone, even when the car is in high gear. The valve caps complement the wheel in 6 different colors. This gives the individual wheel an even more coherent look. You can even choose the wheel bolt in the last step to match the wheel. Available in black, silver, and even titanium. With the help of the BBS Unlimited style components, you're able to create a work of art out of a conventional wheel, according to your own wishes and ideas. Just take a look at our configurator, and after a few clicks you can already start designing the perfect wheel for your vehicle. Do you have any questions about customization? Then contact the wheel expert now.